Hello and welcome to the Seahawkers podcast. I'm Brandon Schultz, and today I am joined by my good buddy Clinton Bonner. As Clinton, our other good buddy Adam Emmert, is on the road doing some work, but we are here and we are going to be talking some contracts, talking about Guard Watch 2025. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty well. Doing okay. My Yukon Huskies took the L today to the Florida. The Gators took us down. Hard fought game. Was a 1 versus an 8. UF was the one. Yukon played well. Played with a lot of tenacity. A little bit short, so I'm a little bummed about that. But Brandon, after we record this, I am going to a concert, and I got free tickets as of last night to go see Nathaniel Ratliff and the Night Sweats. They're amazing. So sober yin, raging yang, Brandon. I'm fired up, and we're here to talk Seahawks. We are on Guard Watch, and you, my friend, you did the digging that you could do into the Darnold and Kupp contract to kind of find out as much information as we know, and I think also like what are the big blank spaces we still don't know. Is that about right?
Yeah. Well, I've been struggling because to this point, I don't know, I guess a week out from free agency, or I guess it's even close to 12 days now, that we would have more of an idea of what Sam Darnold and his contract's going to be moving forward. And I think based off of some deductive work on how things have gone with other contracts, based on the numbers that we do know, I feel pretty good about the Sam Darnold contract and what we can expect from that. The Cooper Kupp one is still a little bit up in the air for me. And so I did a bit more wish casting as far as the Cooper Kupp contract went. And so I wanted to share that with you too, just to give folks an idea of where I'm thinking that it might end up. And I could be completely off on that one, but I'm pretty close on the Darnold one. And I think we're going to have some fun talking about it, Clinton. I know you wanted to rub it in my face just a little bit with regard to basketball, but also you made me feel kind of good because no matter what would have happened between our two basketball teams, they probably get beat by Florida, who is the favorite, and they go on and we're disappointed either way. It just our disappointment is staggered. You're going to a concert tonight. I'm going to see Alton Brown this week and his show. So we both have something to wash away our basketball sorrows.
Yeah, would you look at that, right? It'll be okay. And the cool part is that the NFL has become this 12 months a year, 365 passion for you and I. So it just doesn't stop. Even when we get to June, we'll see how we're doing there. But with that, Brandon, we got there are lots of new subscribers every single week. We got that on screen here. So youtube.com/Seahawkers podcast. Every time I go back to it, it's like we got a few more people every single day. So that's super, super cool. And yeah, but we keep on getting ready. Oh yeah, Brandon, what do you think of this, by the way, for those on YouTube right now, brand new graphic. I was pretty proud of this one. What do you think?
This is cool. This is like an anime style version of Leo Williams. I don't know what you did to create it, but it feels very much in that style of anime, and I'm digging it.
Yeah. So I just use Be Funky, which is kind of like a Canva. And they have like all these really cool art filters. So for anybody that digs this kind of stuff, found a cool image of Leo, throw him in there, apply an art filter or two, kind of tinker around, and voila. But you know what? When you're starting with a canvas that is Leo Williams, all pumped up with the Seahawks W glasses on, Brandon, I mean, I don't think you could do much wrong, but this certainly does feel right, I think.
It does. I want this as a poster on my wall.
Oh, well, very cool. Maybe we'll start something new. Like what are the brothers from Seattle?
Kostakos. The Kostakos brothers.
Yes, the Kostakos.
We're not brothers, but we could be.
Yeah.
Why don't we brother up?
Yeah, brother
former
up.
Post for company.
It sounds as good as anything we've done so far. But this is our new support billboard, right? So for folks to go to getintheflock.com if you value the show and you want to join in either as a free member. I know you keep telling folks they could do that for sure, which is awesome. But then if you want to get some of the perks, like get into the Discord or get into the Facebook Ring of Honor, that are really just a lot of fun with other great 12s. What are we at now? $3 a month, Brandon, at Getting the Flock will get you into the Discord. Is that still correct?
That is still correct. With inflation, Yeah, we may have to consider this. It'd be like equal to, I don't know, 2 eggs. And as long as we just keep it tied to the price of eggs, then maybe our membership prices go up here in the future.
They could fluctuate. I mean, get in while the getting's good, folks. I think is what you're trying to say. Right. Nice.
Get in theflock.com. We're trying to get to 500 members of the flock. There's also a free option too. So if you just want to go there, help support us that way, get notified whenever new shows post, get notified whenever there's updates to the community. You can go there, join as a free member, even get in theflock.com.
Very nice. And one more quick announcement. We will be at the Clearwater Casino, which is just across from Puget Sound, across from Seattle, and we'll be there for the draft party. So Earl Thomas will be there, Julian Love will be there, and myself, Brandon, and Adam will be live streaming for 2 days, but the party is on April 24th, night 1. There's a QR code right on youtube.com if you're watching it right now. And if not, just Google NFL draft party, Clearwater Casino, you'll see it. $75 tickets, but they have a whole evening planned, and I am very, very much, I love this. This is so cool that I'm going to get to, come out west and do this with y'all live. It fires me up, Brandon, beyond belief.
Yeah. And if you want to go for evening 2, we're going to be there for draft night 2. And those ones don't have ticket prices because all the NFL stars will not be there signing autographs. It'll just be us.
Yeah. Just come hang.
All right. So Clinton, I wanted to get into the Sam Darnold contract and what we know, because a big part of what we know, and it came out through Pro Football Talk on March 16th, and the initial report was a 3-year, $100.5 million deal, $55 million guaranteed. Mm-hmm. And then we got some of these other bullet points of exactly how much was guaranteed in 2025. The 2026 compensation, as well as the 2027, which is non-guaranteed. It works out to where it's essentially a deal that the Seahawks can get out of after 1 year. It's most likely a 2-year deal with some other bonuses. And if you look at some of the structure of the Baker Mayfield bonuses for individual performances, there's also performances for performance bonuses for postseason performance. And the reason why I say Baker Mayfield, these two contracts are so much similar that the individual bonuses and the playoff bonuses, I have to imagine that they looked at that one to try and come up with some of those numbers. So a big portion of what I use to kind of speculate then on some of the other components of this contract were based on Baker Mayfield, based on the numbers that we have, and up on screen out at youtube.com/Seahawkers podcast. We have the Baker Mayfield contract, and it has void years tied to it in 2027 and 2028. And I think it's very likely that we're going to see that the Seahawks using that too, especially based on Leo Williams' contract. They used 2 void years at the end of his deal. And it's kind of a way to kick that cap number out a little bit to where in that 4th year, they're not, well, they may end up still be playing for the team. But if not, it's kind of, the future money aspect of it is that, well, that's going to seem like more of a drop in the bucket 4 years down the road with the cap increasing over these next few years. I think that's kind of why they're doing that, Clinton.
Yeah. And, very cool to see the Baker comparison here. I guess the furthest to the right cap percentage for Baker is really when it all settles here, like in 2026, that being the highest percentage, but still under 16%. So if we're like, hey, trying to project and saying that's where Darnold could be if Seattle decides to not get out of it after 1 year, because it is pretty get outable. And you're saying it's likely similar, it sounds like, or are we like rewinding the clock? I guess walk me through this a little bit. So is it like Baker's 24 is like our 25? Because on screen here, Baker's 24 was under 3% of the cap hit, which is insane. Is that what we're looking at for Darnold in year 1, you believe, or am I misreading the purpose?
Nope, that's actually very close. So if we project that then into Sam Darnold's contract, and this is my projection then based on the Mayfield deal, based on the numbers that we know, and that would, so that under 3% of the cap for Mayfield in 2024, it does work out to being under 3% of the cap in 2025 for the Seahawks in this contract. So based on the that 37.5 million in year one number that was reported by Pro Football Talk, that to me is the signing bonus, which is the guaranteed amount, plus the base salary, that the veteran minimum base salary of Sam Darnold's age is going to get. So that's a $1.255 million base salary. Then you add that to the $36.250 million signing bonus, and you get $37.5 million. So that's how I came up with that number. And then spreading that out over 5 years puts that individual signing bonus cap number per year at 7.25.
Okay, thank you for walking me through that. And then the spreading it out over 5 years, that's the part we don't know yet. But you're saying
right,
that's what the Bucs did with Baker, and it's so similar to that. You're saying it's very likely it looks like this kind of 5 year spread for that.
And that's what they did with Leo Williams, was they added 2 void years. And so for these larger contracts, it kind of makes sense. Now that's what a lot of teams seem to be doing. Shoot, if you go and you look at the void years for, the Eagles and the Jalen Hurts deal, I think they had like 5 void years on the end. So I don't know enough about the cap to know why you can go ahead and do 5. I just know that you can't. You can put it down on paper like this, but when you look at that cap number in the 2028 season for this Sam Darnold contract projection that I have, the 14.5 means that if he's not on the team, they're going to have to pay that cap number on that 2028 season. You can't spread it out past multiple years if they're not on the team.
Okay, but and still to the previous slide too, when we get to 26 and 27, even if Sam Darnold's still here in 2027 and his cap number is almost $43 million, okay, but then we could project that the salary cap was it capped at like 290 million this year or something like that, right? It was
a little over 285 this year.
Okay, so all right, let's say there's even a total of 10% increase in the next 2 years, which would probably be mild. You're still looking at something that is 15% of that 2027 cap. What's that deadly number that they usually say is like, well, they were like, oh, you can't win the Super Bowl if your quarterback is this percentage. What was that mythical number that was?
It was right in that 15-16% amount. And I think that Matt Stafford broke that.
Yeah.
The year that they ended up winning, and they demolished it if you included the dead money that they were still paying at quarterback. So
but they were paying Goff a huge chunk of money that year, right? So they were way over and I do count that. I mean, the whole idea was you can't pay the quarterback that much money, and they had to pay Goff that money. So it would still, in my opinion, counted. Have others gotten close? I mean, obviously, studs have won the Super Bowl, but Jalen Hurts this year, not a quarterback stud. I think he's pretty good. I know there's kind of arguments about that, but Mahomes, Brady, et cetera.
The previous year.
Yeah. So he broke it as well from okay. All right. So it's not like it's this impervious rule that you can't break. It's been broken a couple of times recently, but still, even with the cap gymnastics, I don't think we're even going to be breaking this golden rule. So if Darnold is the truth for the next 3 years or so, I still think we're in a pretty good situation.
I just want to be clear. I'm not projecting Sam Darnold to be the truth based on this contract. This is just the numbers.
No, but if he is the truth, then we're really sitting kind of pretty, right? Was the whole
sitting
idea.
Pretty good. This is, again, it's in that range of Baker Mayfield where it's kind of team friendly, kind of cap friendly, kind of friendly for the quarterback getting the contract, because you're getting paid a decent amount in year 2 and year 3 of the contract, and you get that money up front to where it does balance out to about 33 to 36 million per year over the course of the contract.
Well, one other point too. Yes, it is. Look, no one's crying about 34 million or 42 million dollars, or heck, 8.5 million dollars for the cap numbers. Certainly not me, and I'm sure not you either. With that, though, just comparatively, we've been hearing lots of, call it, smoke around Brock Purdy again, and a little bit of tumult potentially out in the Bay. That's like, what are they going to do? Are
Mhm.
they going to keep him and is he worth $55 million a year? And you got all sides being like, well, he's better than Goff and he's better than Tua, which I'm not sure either of those are accurate. Than Goff, I would say I don't think he's better than Goff.
Better than Tua. I'd say he's better than Tua.
I think so too. I think
But I don't know if Tua should have got the contract that he did either.
Correct. Better than Lawrence, perhaps. We'll see if Lawrence gets into a functional NFL, offense with like a stable NFL front office. Right. We'll see if he could re-blossom. But with that, though, if the 49ers are out paying 55, 60 million Dak-like numbers, all right. I mean, I think Brock Purdy's pretty okay, but I also think he's a little bit of the wicked witch. Like if you heat him up, to me, he's like every other quarterback that gets heated up that's not named Josh Allen or Lamar at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. The Niners would probably rather have Purdy at the Sam Darnold contract level. Brock Purdy would rather be at the Josh Allen contract level, and they'll probably end up somewhere in between.
You would think you think they would. We'll see. We'll see if there's if lesser cooler heads do or do not prevail. It'll be interesting. There's just some smoke out there that there might be very speculative, but might be some action come around the draft that they just might make a call and say, we're not paying what they would deem maybe like a Jimmy G plus $55 or $60 million. And is basically, I like Dak Prescott. I think Dak is a good NFL quarterback and sometimes very good NFL quarterback. And again, a bit of a dysfunctional franchise, but maybe they just look at this and say, we're not going that route. Like, we just don't think we could win that way versus we could go get another Jimmy G or even a Brock Purdy and just figure it out. And I don't know, they've proven it kind of time and time again. So I realize this segment's not about the Niners, but just looking at the numbers, I kind of want them to commit $55 million to Purdy and see how they swim with that kind of contract.
Oh, for sure. I mean, we've already seen them struggle with having to keep a lot of those defensive stars on their team because of a lot of the bigger contracts that they've had to sign with Fred Warner, with Nick Bosa, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk. Like, you can't keep all those guys. They had to trade Deebo Samuel. So they can't keep everybody. And then elevating Brock Purdy's contract makes it even more difficult. Trent Williams is going to retire. That's going to eventually be a place that is going to be a significant void that's going to impact Brock Purdy too. So yeah, the more money that the Niners are paying at their quarterback spot for a quarterback who's not among the top 5, we can comfortably say, then that's good for us.
Yes. So screw the Niners. Good sleuthing.
Screw the Niners, screw the Cardinals with their Kyler Murray contract. Yeah. Although I would like to have, a quarterback of the future too.
We got the draft coming up. We mentioned it earlier, right? So I'm
Any
all
other
about
questions with regard to the Sam Darnold contract before we talk a little Cooper Kupp?
No, not for me. I think he did a nice job laying it out, and I got value from it, and just seeing the percentages and looking at 25 with the flexibility. Super cool. I know the Kupp one's a little bit, like you said, a little bit more speculative because we have less information. So I'm interested to see what you cook up.
Yeah, well, all we know with the Cooper Kupp contract is the initial report that it was 3 years, $45 million. And the curious part of it to me is that normally when a contract's announced, they announce how much money's guaranteed on the deal. And that's something that they didn't do with the Kupp contract.
Mm-hmm.
He was under contract with the Rams for $20 million in 2025. He was due $5 million. So there's a $5 million salary that the Rams are having to pay Kupp in 2025. And it's similar to what happened when the Denver Broncos cut Russell Wilson. They owed him $29 million. Then he went to the Steelers, and the Steelers paid him veteran minimum because all of that money then, no matter how much the Steelers would have paid, that would have essentially just lessened the amount that Denver would have to pay. And so they're not going to pay over $29 million for Russell Wilson. We saw that happen. No need to. And that deal worked out really well for the Steelers. So
So can I
it
wait? Can
might,
I pause? Yeah, can I pause you
yeah.
there because I want to get that, and I think for other folks at home that might be trying to follow the bouncing ball too. There, right? So with the Steelers and Russ and the Broncos, so he's owed 29 million. They cut him. He's owed. He gets that money anyway. It's like, okay,
Mhm.
well, the Broncos, it's dead money. That's going to Russell's pocket. Period. So the Steelers could look at that and say, cool, we'll sign you for the vet minimum for a quarterback, whatever that was, 1 point whatever million he's allowed to, whatever the league says you got to pay a quarterback of a certain age. And your point being there is like, sure, the Steelers could have paid more, could have, but it'd be literally like the out of the kindness of their heart type thing. They don't have to because Russ is being overcompensated at that point already by the Broncos. Russ's agent realizes that. Russ knows that. The Steelers know that. Sign the minimum, and away you go. So
Where it would come into play though in that case, well, and let's use Cup as an example because he's owed 5.
right.
And arguably he's probably worth more than $5 million just on the open market, right? Like if you're
Totally.
going to sign Cup to a 1-year deal, you base it off of, I don't know, what some of the other guys out there. Well, DeAndre Hopkins only got 5, but if you can imagine, I don't, just say it's 10. Then the Rams are off the hook for paying Cup anything next year. The entire 10 million would be owed by the Seahawks if he were getting a a 10 million one year $10 million deal.
Wait,
So
so why would the Rams then be off the hook? That part, that part I'm not following.
because the salary is higher than the 5 that they owe him, and so the
Okay,
other team's paying it, and so they don't have to.
got it. Okay,
He's
so
guaranteed 5 million by an NFL team.
yes, but in the case, okay, but back to the Russ one because that
Yeah.
one's done. So Russ got 29 from the Broncos, but still got the 1 point whatever from the Steelers. He got both of
Yeah.
those, right?
It,
It
it
was like,
reduced, but it reduced what Denver owed him by 1.2 million.
gotcha. So it still washes that way. So he basically just got 29 million that year, which is great. Okay, so
But
that
if
now
there were a
makes
lot
sense.
of competition for him and his number was 35, then the Broncos wouldn't have had to pay him anything.
Got it. Okay, well, so seeing what like Slayton got paid and others, like Slayton got 12 million a year,
Mhm.
and apparently there was a market for Cup. So let's say Cup's market for year one was really more like you said, 10 or 12 million dollars. Then that would just be the cap hit for Seattle year one.
Right. But
Okay.
I'm trying to come up with a contract that's going to screw the Rams.
Ooh, I like
Uh,
that.
and and try and meet to what he was asking, which the word was between reports from Ian Rappaport. Ian Rappaport said somewhere between 11 and 15. Diana Rossini's number was 13 to 14. And so I
Mhm.
kind of went with her numbers that he was looking for a 13 to $14 million contract. And then you look at the Devontae Adams deal, which was a 2-year, $44 million contract with the Rams. I don't think it's a coincidence, Clinton, that it was a $45 million contract for Cooper Kupp when Devontae Adams signed with the Rams for $44 million.
Okay.
Doesn't it seem curious that it's 1 million more than what the Rams got Devontae Adams for, even though the years are different? But you look at it on paper and you go, oh, Cooper Kupp 45 million, Devontae 44. That
A
just seems
little
like something an agent's gonna
right.
put out there and say, I got my guy 45.
A little upsmanship, I think, is happening here. And of course, one Hall of Famer going to the Rams and then a really good wide receiver in Cup leaving that organization. So I follow the logic. But to your first point about this, then why not release any of the guaranteed monies? Like that's almost always the thing that's out there. The agent gets to put that big number out there
Yeah.
and say, oh, I got Cup guaranteed $25 million, and then you could say, okay, it's really a 2-year deal with a third year void. It's basically 12 and a half, if we slice it. And the first year is a little less because we could do some cap magic and balloon it in the second year. So I'm wondering if that's where, if you drew out the Cup one like you did Darnold with a little bit of math.
A little bit. And here's what I came up with. I came up with no signing bonus because I'm not sure how, and this is the part that I don't know enough about with regard to the contract. If there was a signing bonus, would that impact then that salary that the Rams were due to pay him in 2025? And again, so I'm trying to play this out in a way that is favorable to the Seahawks, is favorable enough to Cooper that he would actually sign a deal like this, and then also, yeah, it screws the Rams a little bit. So I just have a base salary for Kupp at the 12 or the 1.25 million in year one, with then a guaranteed salary of 18.7 in year two. So it's a 2-year, 20 million guaranteed contract. And then he gets a little bit, he gets his full 5 million in 2025. It's just that the Seahawks are paying 1.2, the Rams would be paying 3.8, and that's less that the Seahawks have to pay him and a little bit the Rams have to pay him. And then the third year with the 25 million would be just there to make that number then 45 million over the 3 years. Kupp's getting essentially 22 million over, well, it would be 23.8, and so it averages out to 12 million a year over the next 2 years if you include that Rams money that he would be getting then in 2025.
Which you definitely do. You absolutely include that money because that's real money to Cooper Kupp's account.
Right.
And so now I'm stepping through and getting the math. So I appreciate you walking it through there. This would be great. This would be magical. It would still lead us down the path of, okay, we've got an incredible amount of cap money still.
Right.
A boatload of cap money. So let's go do things. And I know now I'm hearing, well, we could roll it over and 20, yes, I get you could roll it over. But it's not, you could roll it over, but it's not like roll over T-Mobile minutes from back in the day because there's still a cap.
There's reasons why it might be beneficial to roll it over, especially when you've got a number of guys, in particular Charles Cross. And I think
and
that
Lucas, potentially Lucas, right?
Potentially Lucas,
Reek.
Charles Cross. And I think that it would probably make sense to go ahead and pay Cross this offseason, especially with the cap space that you have right now. But yeah, and then Reek Woolen, if you decide to do something with him too, it would be there. I don't know if they do, but Derek Hall, Boye Mafe, you've got guys on the defensive line that I would think that with the way that Derek Hall broke out last year with Boye Mafe and some of the salaries we're seeing on the defensive line, if they want to keep continuity within that group, I could see them then needing a lot of that cap space just to sign some of their own guys.
Yeah. Okay. It's comforting, right? So it's a comforting thing if we do end up literally just rolling over money and not spending it, because as we've been talking about a lot, the guard market has gotten really, really thin. Clearly we're going to be going, we would think, in some youth movement. The line's already very young to begin with. You got it'll be 4. Let's say you project either Lamea or Haynes, 4 out of the 5 guys right now on rookie deals. And the 5th one you don't know who it is yet. Maybe it's Sundell, maybe it's Lamea kicks over to left guard, but we don't really have a left guard per se, even on the even on the roster at this point. So, okay, this was useful. This helped me. I'm sure it helped others to take a peek at this. Any other numbers from Kupp? So how realistic do you think this is? I know it's like we want to stick.
This
it
is
to
a
the
bit of
Rams
wish casting.
Okay,
I'm not going to lie, because it seems like there would be some kind of money up front that he would get. And I just don't know if that guaranteed amount in year 2 would be enough to satisfy that. Because I think what you could do is with that guaranteed salary, then after we get through the 2025 season and say, hey, as soon as the season's over, we're going to take that guaranteed salary and we're going to restructure the contract so that way we're going to give it to you as a signing bonus after the Super Bowl in 2026. And then he would get that 18.7 essentially right then. They would convert that then to signing bonus, and then it would spread it out. It would make the cap hit lower in 2026. He'd get his money after the season. I just don't know. I'd be a little bit surprised if it looked exactly like this, but if it came out like this, then it works out really well for Seattle.
Well, the part I took away from that last part is that after Cupp wins his second Super Bowl MVP,
Right.
they could do cap magic and kick the and restructure and give him a big fat old check that, and give him a signing bonus.
Yeah.
But I understand too that if you were to take something that is similar to what's on screen, he is foregoing monies in his account this year in some significant ways where he could be getting some more upfront. And of course, if anybody's ever had money before, if you have money, you could make money with that money. You could do things with it, right? Invest it and make more on it. So he'll play that game and we'll see. It'd be nice to get these friggin' numbers. How long I guess, what's the maximum amount of time before these numbers would come out? Is there some deadline that it's got to be some deadline, right?
You would think. I think that they have to. Let's see. I don't know what the deadlines are when they have to be. Like, everybody has to be under the cap by the start of the new league year. And then, so maybe sometime after the draft, because when everybody starts incorporating the draft contracts into their actual contracts, I'm guessing, if I just had to guess, I'd say May.
Okay, I'll take it. Not too far away. It
right.
seems it, but it's we're talking like 6 weeks.
And that's, again, a wild ass guess. Maybe somebody in the comments knows like the actual answer. I do not.
That's okay. We're speculating. It's all good.
All right.
Perfect.
Well, you were talking guards, Clinton. And so I wanted to take a look at and see here on day 12 of Guard Watch 2025, which guys were still out there. And Brandon Scherf at the top of the list. He did go visit with Philadelphia, and I'm a little bit surprised that the Eagles haven't signed him yet, so maybe he is looking for other deals. Shaq Mason of Houston. The Texans, their issue, like, normally it would scare me away when a team with a really bad offensive line starts just jettisoning dudes. But the Texans have been so weird. They just seem to blow up everything with getting rid of Tunsil, signing Laken Tomlinson. Like, as soon as they signed Laken Tomlinson, I started to wonder if the Texans really even know what they're doing, Clinton.
Kind of weird, right? And especially coming off of, they kind of did the anti-Chiefs and anti-Bears thing. Bears this year, Chiefs a couple of years ago when Mahomes got accosted by the Buccaneers, and then they just went out and were like, okay, we're going to just redo the offensive line. And they completely redid it. And then they win 2 Super Bowls in a row, I think, right? And now the Bears have done that this year. And we're sitting here as Seahawks fans being like, twiddling our thumbs, wanting an offseason like that. But the Texans, Stroud has a tremendous year one, like great year one. And they make a bit of a playoff push. They're the hot team. Then last year, they kind of just go sideways and maybe even take a step back. And the pass protection was bad. And Stroud, just like any other quarterback, basically not named Josh Allen or Lamar, but even those guys, when they get heated up, it's still, I mean, to me, Josh is like the number one that could still make stuff out of nothing, even more so than Lamar, in my opinion. They're both great. But Stroud came back down to earth, and then they kicked their left tackle out. It seemed very, very, very weird, Brandon. I don't know what they're doing. But to your point, so is your point, they're so backwards that maybe, like, who cares? Shaq Mason might be great because the Texans are really not making sense to you and I at this point.
Right. Yeah. Normally a guy like Shaq Mason, him not being re-signed by his former team would scare me a little bit.
Right.
But based on what Houston's doing, now I'm at least open to the possibility. How about that?
I'm cool with it. And just so folks, know, Shaq Mason, 31 years old. So he's not
32, I think, at least by the start of the season.
Okay. So league age of 32 next year. So currently 31, he'll be 32 years old. So we're not talking about completely over the hill. And what can you go watch some tape, go look at some PFF and all those things. Very slightly above average, very slightly or average play in terms of kind of right in the middle of the pack in terms of pass
Which
blocking.
describes almost every name on this list. Scherf may be a little bit above that.
I'd say Scherf is, I think Scherf is above that. Scherf a bit older as well. So he's 33, probably be 34 this season. He got that big contract with the Jaguars. He's bounced around the league a bit, but he's been a name for quite a while and really had several very, very solid seasons, like a Pro Bowler, many seasons, but still a very good pass blocker, or at least a competent above average pass blocker. And his run blocking has seemed to suffer as he's kind of aged a little bit. But I would say for me, Brandon, like any of these, and we could go through some of the other ones too, but any of these to me are still, they do the thing that when I was like, hey, just go get Kevin Zeitler for a year. If we're not going to get Will Fries, can we just get the consummate professional who can come in? And if we then have, let's say, 5 or 6 other guys competing in one way or another for the other 4 positions that are all on rookie contracts, wouldn't it be cool to have a Brandon Scherf in that locker room? I just think that has value also for an offensive line.
Yeah, and Scherf might be at that age where he's just chasing titles, and that would make a little bit of sense for him too. So that one might be the reason why we haven't seen him. Might be for a reason like that. A couple of the other guys on this list, Dalton Reisner of Minnesota, he's interesting because again, the Vikings revamped their interior offensive line. Do you really want to take the guy that they didn't want? But according to Vikings fans, of the guys in the interior, he wasn't one of the ones that they had the most complaints about. And I've even seen, now that Reisner's been out there for a little while, that there's some Vikings fans going, well, could we keep him and have some depth on the offensive line? Hey, if they're thinking that, then no, we want him as a starter, not as a depth piece here in Seattle. I'd consider that. Will Hernandez is one that's going to take a little while just because he was injured during the season, a pretty significant knee injury. And he's one that I wouldn't really, we're probably going to be seeing Will Hernandez's name on this list if we're still doing guard watch when preseason rolls around. So I don't expect him to necessarily get signed here in this early free agency period, maybe toward preseason. Dylan Radin's a guy that the Seahawks had in this week. And then a new name that I added to this list in your honor, Clinton.
Thank you.
Joe Noteboom of the LA Rams, who played tackle for the Rams. They were considering playing him at guard, especially in the 2023 season. He's been generally a guy who hasn't played more than 300 or 400 snaps a season. But if you're looking at a guy that isn't too old, maybe has a little bit of potential on the way up, I put him on this list. I think he belongs at the bottom with these names, but maybe he deserves to be on this list.
Oh, have you ever seen Flight of the Conchords when that was on HBO?
I don't think
Max
so.
back in it's wonderful. It's so it follows 2 musicians and people will know it, right? So they're from New Zealand, very funny. But there's a great moment where he's talking to the manager. They're talking to the manager, and I'm paraphrasing, but he's like, it's about 2 guys who start at the bottom and work really hard, like 2 musicians who start at the bottom, work really hard, and they're still in the bottom, and then get old and they are still at the bottom. It's just so we're talking about the bottom of the bottom. We're kind of scraping the barrel already. And then so if Joe Noteboom is at the bottom of your pile, that is already the bottom, I get a little concerned.
I'm just still in screw the Rams territory. And if they're not going to sign one of their own depth pieces on the offensive line, why don't we? And then they have to search for guard depth or even tackle depth themselves.
Well, it could be a trap, right? But a couple of things that are interesting about Noteboom. And I just want to say one thing about Will Hernandez as well. But Noteboom first, he, like you mentioned, I think he'll be 30 this year during the season. He's 29 currently. He's a better run blocker. He's okay there, right? He's a pretty decent run blocker. And if he's coming from the Rams system, while the Rams have changed up, they're still a zone team, right? For the most part, but they've kind of changed their type of zone. It's a little bit less wide zone and more towards the interior the last few years as McVay has pivoted from a pure outside zone, but still Noteboom there, and he's been a fairly successful run blocker. However, his pass blocking, again, this is just going off some PFF stuff that's readily available, right?
Yeah.
But his pass blocking has been like notoriously not very strong.
I
So
think he's given up over or nearly 100 pressures in 1,500 snaps, which is a little over a season and a half. So yeah, those numbers aren't great.
They don't feel good. They don't feel good. I understand the piece with Will Hernandez and it being more risky, that if you go take a dude who's, he'll be 30, he's 29. I think he'll be 30 in the year, but I think a pretty okay guard, and been a guard for a long time and had good pedigree and was, pretty high draft pick and all these things, and has played at he was a little disappointing at different points of his career, but then he totally had like a legitimate second wind to his career. And that's something that at least the guy is stuck around now. It's almost like a Glowinski or a Carpenter that, we talk about like, okay, those guys walked out our door. Yeah, I kind of feel similarly about Will Hernandez's arc, that he had a pretty rough start to the beginning of his career, but he's redeemed himself. He's put together a nice little career, but it's a risk that going on 30 with a fairly major injury, can he be, can he get there? But is he a pup guy? Can he even get there after week 4, week 6? Can he be whatsoever valuable? And if you're starting to think about that, like if that's the real timeline for him, is it even worth it? Because I think partially you're doing this for, number one, Brandon, like, okay, let's get some freaking floor over at left guard that we can feel comfortable with, something with a veteran presence. And then number two, it is like, okay, we want that veteran guy in the locker room. We want that veteran guy like helping to gel what is still a young line. So if Will can't participate because of injury, do you think he just gets scrubbed off the potential list?
I don't think he gets scrubbed. I think he just ends up being the backup to the backup to the backup plan.
the guy behind the guy behind the guy. Got it. Well,
and then you can just be like John Schneider and be wait and see about the guard spot. So it fits into his plan perfectly. He doesn't have to do anything right now.
Yeah, he could just sit back and wait and then watch pick 18 come across the board and see what he does with that, man. It's going to be fascinating. I think the entire any Seahawks fan who's paying attention in the offseason, like really paying attention, which I feel like, judging by our numbers and seeing how many people are viewing our YouTube and how many people are subscribing and joining, which again, thank you, all cool stuff. I think most are paying heavy attention to this, and it's going to be just incredibly intriguing if we get to 18 pick wise and he punts again. It's just going to be, and we don't pick till 50, right? It's like, it's a pretty big gap. And you got other dudes there that are like, all right, well, it's a reach. If you take them at 18, it's a reach. And I'm still going to be pounding the table to say, I'm not sure it's a reach to go get a starting guard when that's the biggest thing we need, man. So I know we're really harping on that quite a bit lately, Brandon, but until that day happens on April 24th and we get through the first round, I'm very concerned that we're going to take a BPA guy that might feel good for the front office, but doesn't help us in 2025. And I'm going to be sad about that.
Where do I put my money on you being sad?
That's the thing, right? What's the odds I'm sad? I'll tell you what would make me sad. I know people are gaga over Jahad Campbell right now. That would make me sad. It would make me sad to be like, we're getting an inside linebacker. And I know people are going to throw tomatoes and say he's the next Micah Parsons. And I can tell you, I'm not sure that's true. I'm not sure that he is this next absolute gem of a defensive end who's going to suddenly go get us 14 sacks a year. I am not sold on Jahad Campbell. He might be good, but I don't know, man. I really don't. That's one. And there's others in safety position. I think we're pretty good back there. I don't want to see us go spend a high draft pick on a safety. But so I would put the sadness, I'd give it like a less than 2-1 odds. You know what I mean? That I'd be a little bit sad at the end of the day. But I'll be around flockers, so it'll be cool.
And we're gonna get Tyler Warren, so then you'll be happy and everything will
Oh
be
my
good.
gosh. I'll be so happy if we get Tyler Warren. I hope folks enjoyed some of the shows we've been doing lately. I am actively pounding the table for Tyler Warren. And Brandon, when the next person comes into YouTube and tells me that there's no way he'll be there at 18, which is you might be right. But with all these reports, I'll keep saying it, that Jackson Dart, people are falling in love with him. All right, that's another dude off the board. And Sanders probably going to go maybe top 3 or 4 picks. And then I'm telling you, another running back sneaks in, and you get one team to make a pick that's kind of not the likely pick. I think the likelihood of Tyler Warren being there is higher than most people think it is. And yeah, man, we're gonna run that ticket up, Brandon, for sure.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to it. Maybe even the Seahawks. They'll be recruiting you, Clinton, to run that ticket up to the table if it is Warren. I'm crossing my fingers for that.
I have one question about that. Where is I know we'll be in Seattle or just in Suquamish, just across from Seattle. Where's the actual draft this year?
It's in Green Bay. So it's going to be quite a bit of a jog for you to run the ticket from the peninsula all the way to Green Bay. But I start putting in the steps.
I was thinking if we could zip line there somehow, some way. A zip line would be a lot of fun because, I mean, zip lines are just – when's a zip line not fun, right? So –
zip line there. And I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.